Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet Sky FF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000. My name is Such.
And my name is James.
Nice to record a little podcast about a game whose deadline I don't forget, James.
Save that for Friday's podcast, mate, because we need to have a proper giggle about it. But for the benefit of Sky players, many of whom will also play FPL, yes, Serge was on free hit yesterday, and I sent him a message at 5 o'clock once Sheffield United Newcastle teams were out and said, Sky reminder, as I always do. And he said, shit, I missed deadline. I'm like, oh, you got till 6 o'clock, mate. No. Someone forgot to
FPL.
Someone forgot to activate their. It could have been worse, Serge, in terms of not activating your free hit chip. What you could have done is you could have made 6 or 7 transfers and been on like a minus 24 and just forgot to activate it. Or something.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know if that would be worse because I think the points would counteract what I've lost out on. But
maybe
it is what it is. That's a Friday show. Regular listeners tune in on Friday. We'll talk about it more. So
Sky,
we're going to be talking about Sky.
There's nothing to review because it's only been one game day, which was obviously last night. Most of us will have probably missed out on obviously Bruno captain. Very quiet, has to be said. He was really quiet, Bruno, but still hit shot tiers, booking as well. So quiet night all round. I dropped from 117th to 127th, blank from Pedro Neto. But there'd been a few people out there with people like Michael Keane, for example, would have given him a little jump and stuff. So, I mean, wasn't expecting any form of rise last night. It was just a block, basically. That's all that is with Bruno at the moment. It's just block everyone else.
Exactly, yeah. I was 1,700 and something before. I'm 1,800 and something now. It's like literally floating in exactly the same position as I am. I've been fairly steady for the last 2 or 3 match weeks now. So I'm happy enough with that. But we've got obviously a busier period that we're coming into now as we approach the overhaul. I feel like we might end up in a similar situation that we did before the first overhaul, which was, can you just ride it out now until the overhaul? And we're making needs transfers, not wants transfers.
No, we can't, mate. I mean, some are needs. I mean, if you take Arsenal this Thursday,
I need an Arsenal asset tomorrow.
So do I. So that's a need, isn't it? I don't want an Arsenal player. I need one. Whereas if you want to steam into Manchester City tomorrow night, that's probably more want. So yes, so much of this at the moment is kind of exactly what we titled the pod 3 or 4 weeks ago: is need versus want. And I'm very much wrestling with that in terms of what I do with Man City tonight. So I obviously bought Stones and Diaz when they were meant to play Everton. I've got KDB as well. So now landed in, although it was bad at the time, I now land kind of ready, if you like, with 3 players. By the time they kick off tonight, I could still have maybe only 3 players from City. I could have 4, I could have 5. I think I'm going to have 4. I think I'm going to move tonight from Grealish to Cancelo. But I'm wrestling with my head at the moment about Rodri massively. The reason for that being, I could go Robertson to Cancelo and Grealish to Rodri. And I really like it. But I'm pretty sure that Rodri will outscore Grealish by quite a bit between now and overhaul. That's my thinking. It looks like the sources, it's worth saying we're recording at 11:30 in the morning on Wednesday. The sources in the Midlands at the moment seems to suggest that Villa and Everton, which has now been moved to Sunday, will be off. That's the thinking. But we think the plan at the moment is for the training ground to reopen on Saturday. Now, if that's the case, their game at City next Wednesday should be safe, which is obviously good news for lumping onto City today. Also, potentially means that you're not missing too much Villa. Obviously, they were meant to play tonight and are now not. And you'll miss the game Sunday, and then you're walking back into Grealish away to City. Now, the thinking is that there is a possibility that Villa play Newcastle on FA Cup 4th round weekend because both are obviously out of the FA Cup. It's possible. I don't think it will happen, is my instinct. And the reason I don't think it will happen more than anything is there is no need to rush that fixture. Villa and Newcastle have no European commitments, no more cup commitments. There is no urgency to rush to put that game on. It almost feels daft to arrange a game at the moment that isn't absolutely necessary. And the necessities at the moment really have been to get Manchester United on last night at Burnley, Manchester City an extra game against Villa, and what should have been the original was to get Tottenham a game in this period, which obviously is now happening tonight against Fulham. So the priority is arranging the games for the teams that are in Europe. I think there is a small, and it's a very small, possibility that Aston Villa and Tottenham might be on Monday the 25th, which is the Monday after the FA Cup fourth round weekend.
Yep.
There is a gap at the moment to schedule Tottenham at Wickham on the Friday night in the FA Cup. Tottenham then don't play in the Premier League till the Thursday against Liverpool. So again, it's 3 days, 3 days, 3 days. And we're already in a situation where if we don't probably arrange a Tottenham game in somewhere, then Tottenham are going to have to play twice in 3 days at some point if they continue to progress in cup competitions, which drawing someone like Wickham suggests, yeah, we're probably not going to be able to use FA Cup fifth round midweek, for example, another date where Villa and Tottenham could potentially go, which it probably would, by the way, if Tottenham lost to Wickham. So that's a possibility. Now, if that happens, there are a number of other fixtures that need to move. So Villa at Burnley on the Wednesday would have to move to the Thursday. And then there's a knock-on effect of a couple of games on the Saturday that would have to move to a Sunday. And I've warned quite a bit about the midweek between the 26th and the 28th. Don't get set in your mind that that midweek is absolutely locked. I don't think it is. Another possibility, in terms of throwing problems up, is this Southampton-Shrewsbury rearranged game. Now, Shrewsbury, we believe, are going to reopen their training possibly on Friday, is the latest rumour. And the thinking is at the moment that Leeds are happy to have their game with Southampton postponed next Wednesday. And therefore, Leeds and Southampton will be off. And Southampton will play Shrewsbury in the Cup instead. But there's a way of manoeuvring it all. So again, nothing gets postponed.
It might not need to.
Which nobody seems to be mentioning. But if they bring Leeds and Southampton forward to Tuesday, Southampton could play Shrewsbury on a Friday and Arsenal can play the winner in the Cup on the Monday. Now, of course, again, that means Southampton and Arsenal would have to move to the Thursday. It's all quite complicated. Don't get me wrong. I'm just making you aware that there's certain possibilities that don't rule out the improbable at the moment. But in relation to Villa, I don't think the Newcastle game will happen. You could hold Jack Grealish. This is my thinking at the moment. You could hold Jack Grealish. He might not play till Man City next week. And he gets booked and he'd miss a rearranged game against Newcastle or Tottenham in any case. In which case, in the meantime, I could have had four games of Rodri versus one game of Grealish, which would be against Rodri. And that's the sort of thing that's nagging at my mind. And that's why I'm strongly leaning into selling Jack Grealish at the moment is, I don't think the Newcastle game will happen. My theory on the Tottenham game is unlikely because I don't think the Premier League have got the brains to work this sort of thing out. And actually, the 5 yellow cards now count up to the 19th game of a club's competition. So what that means at the moment is, basically, if Villa don't get the Newcastle or Tottenham game rearranged, Jack Grealish could get booked in any game up to West Ham, which is match week 22, and he would serve a suspension before the overhaul. Yep. So there's a long way to go where he's probably still going to serve a suspension. So you're missing 2 games now you thought you had of him, and there's a good chance there's going to be a third. So you might hold Jack Grealish on the potential of, there could be a single game day against Newcastle or Tottenham. Even if he could miss it through suspension anyway. So I'm thinking of moving him. And if that scenario happens, I'll probably move Meslier to Martinez, which then kind of makes sense if Leeds Southampton's postponed. I can then get a game backwards the other way then. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. So I think Jack Grealish is going to go for me. It's obviously a dangerous one because he's so highly owned. And obviously, if one of those rearranged games does happen, he's going to be hugely captained. Obviously, if it's against Newcastle. Because if they play Newcastle, you might as well give them a man a match before they even kick off, probably. Because he'll be on the ball so much. So there's risk, but every move we make has to have an element of risk. It's like that. If I end up with 5 City tonight, they might have a game postponed because of COVID next week. And then where am I?
And then you're stuck. Yeah, of course.
Correct. So there's risk in any moves at the moment, and it means you can't have too much long-term thinking. I think you just need to be aware of the possibilities. And rather than having a set plan of that's going to be my move in 2 weeks, have the idea that I need to make A or B moves in a couple of weeks. I mean, take Mikel Antonio next Tuesday. I've called on the idea quite a bit of buying him for West Brom, because I feel like not only would I buy him, I'd move the captaincy off Zuma anyway, and there's nothing to say that Zuma wouldn't outscore him with a passing tier and Antonio blanks, right? But it might be that someone gets injured between now and then. I could get, say, Cancelo tonight, and if any one of the City players gets injured on Sunday, then it might be that I end up buying Antonio on Tuesday, for example. So I'm just aware of
course. So you've got flexibility in what you're
moment.
looking at and where you're going to go.
That's it.
And that's the challenge as well. I would say I am also in a very similar boat to you in that I'm just looking at individual situations rather than the whole, like making chain moves, if you know what I mean. I haven't got this will go here and then that will go here and then that will go here and then this will go here. It's literally, okay, right here, right now, I still have good captaincy coverage apart from Arsenal all the way through till next week, Thursday. And then obviously we've got a bit of a gap. So I just need to cover off my single Arsenal headache, and the rest will be responses to injuries and postponements and what have you. How are you set for captaincy then? Should we look at our captaincy coverage, and then also we can look at our transfer plans?
Yes. So captaincy tonight. Now, one of the major problems for me is no Tottenham at the moment. And I'm kind of wrestling with I've looked at Kane and Son's data quite a bit. Is there anything I could justify? I mean, for example, I could go quite straightforward tonight. I could go Grealish to Cancelo, which I like, and that's the most probable move I'm going to make. And I could go Robertson to Son. One of the issues with that is that really puts me in a corner in terms of what Arsenal player I have tomorrow night. It basically means that sounds great on paper. The problem is I'm forcing myself into buying Saka for Neto tomorrow.
Right.
That's where I'd be. And one of the things with Neto that I keep thinking is, it's like Neto to Rodri is a move I've considered to open that door up, to not force me into that particular move, so I keep free in midfield. I think I'm going Rodri versus Brighton tonight, or Neto versus West Brom on Saturday. I should probably wait till Sunday, or not do it at all.
West Brom.
That's where my thinking is at the moment. Because I'd be gutted if I go Rodri instead of Neto now, which obviously, if I went, say, Robertson to Cancelo, that opens up the door for me to be able to do it financially. Rodri could get his comfortable 5-pointer tonight that you'd expect. If Neto scores at the weekend, I'm losing. I should have waited, right? Although I have a sneaky suspicion that Rodri's going to score from a set piece tonight. I really, really do. I think one of Rodri...
That feels like one of those hopeful more than actually...
I genuinely think one of Rodri, Diaz or Stones will score tonight. I think City will score from a set piece, and if they do, it's going to be one of them three. You can come back and quote me on that on Friday's podcast again. So no Spurs tonight, so dangerous. I could go all them City players. I could have 5 City, and if Harry Kane scores a hat-trick, I'm fucked. Doesn't really matter what the City players do.
A hat-trick.
But I think I'm going to go out without. One of the reasons I look back at the data. So Kane's hit shots here only 3 times since that 3-3 draw with West Ham in match day 3. So look, Harry Kane in a game like this, great. Yeah, I mean, if I owned Kane, I would captain Kane tonight. If I owned it, if I had Kane and De Bruyne, I'd captain Kane. But there isn't a justification at the moment, I think, in the shot tiers for me to think, oh, yeah, I really want that. And I don't think Son's hit shot tier once since that game. And he's obviously...
I mean, he's not a big prolific shooter anyway. He's more clinical than firing off shots.
Well, yeah, I mean, Son's shot conversion rate is unbelievable. But he just doesn't really appeal as a Sky asset still. But it would cover, right? Because you know in any single game day, Son could outscore Kane, right? But I think I'm going to go without.
Last time round, Kane picked up a goal and assist and Son matched him.
Yeah. Well, Son did the same, didn't he?
Each. So, well, as captains, yeah. So, in terms of then tonight, are you just going to keep it safe with De Bruyne?
Yeah, I'm going to go De Bruyne, obviously assuming he's in the team. So there's the other benefit of that. Although there is no doubt that Kane played tonight, unless he's got COVID and we don't know about it. I would go Kane, would be first
You
choice if
think
I had, but I'll go
you
De
said
Bruyne.
there that you said there you take Kane over De Bruyne if you owned him. Would you take Son over De Bruyne if you owned him?
No, I wouldn't
See,
actually.
this is a tricky one because Son could be more explosive in terms of scoring more goals and assists and attacking returns. But De Bruyne has the benefit of being able to score his points in different ways. He might pick up passing tier and shooting tier, and before you know it, he's matching Son anyway. I'm tempted to go with Son tonight. Genuinely, I am very tempted to put the armband on Son. There's not going to be many opportunities for me to take a differential captain and try and make some gains. And Son against Fulham feels like one where if I'm going to do it, I may as well do it because I still own De Bruyne. So I don't see De Bruyne whacking in a 20-pointer tonight, doubling up to 40.
I don't hate it. I don't think it's one of them obvious ones where you go, I really have to go with the most owned guy here. If you're De Bruyne versus Son and saying, oh, I can't go Son because of the ownership. I don't hate it for this particular one. I don't hate it. I wouldn't do it personally, but it's viable. Son obviously could outscore De Bruyne. The thing with De Bruyne
I mean, your rank is quite different to mine as well.
I get that. The thing with De Bruyne is a little bit kind of what you've alluded to. He could hit, probably not tonight, but he could, if he goes into a deeper role, he could hit passing tier, tackle tier, shot tier, blank, and still outscore Son. We get man of the match as well. That's always the thing with him, isn't it? He can get 11, 12 points without even returning if he goes off big.
Exactly, yeah. True, definitely, for sure. So Arsenal move tomorrow. You said it's going to be Saka, eh?
No.
De Bruyne. No. And then tomorrow?
I don't want it to be Saka. What I'm saying is if I forced in Son, I would be restricted to having to go to Saka.
Okay. Where are you thinking you're going to line up?
I want to go Gabriel is the one that I want to go for. Tierney is the most nailed in terms of if anyone's saying, oh, who's definitely going to play both games? Listen, Kieran Tierney will 100% play both games unless he's injured for the second game. But I think from a passing tier perspective, I'm better off going with Gabriel because I think in these games, Palace and Newcastle, I think Tierney will spend a lot of time in the other half of the pitch. Arsenal's passing tiers have calmed down quite a lot because they're trying to move the ball from back to front a little bit quicker. We're not talking about long ball football here, but they realised they were quite slow and pedestrian in the play. But Gabriel is a player who does like to go side to side quite a lot, a little bit like Zuma. So Gabriel's my first choice. I might go to hold him. It depends on potential future moves where that extra 1.6 million might allow me to go, say, Diaz to Kane in a couple of weeks, for example, and I'm a little bit conscious of that. But I think Gabriel is my first choice. I wouldn't go for Aubameyang. I know we said he'll either win you the game or lose the game for you. I wouldn't go for him. It wouldn't even be my faults. I could go directly from Robertson to Lacazette if I hold off selling him tonight. I'm not massively keen on that either. So I think a defensive one is ideal. I don't hate Saka as a move. If you're stuck with something like that, Neto, and you don't want it anymore, the way I'd look at it, I'd think, Gabriel, what do I want from the two games? I'd think 15 points is what I'd want with captaincy. It's becoming 30. And I'd look at it and I think, can Saka match that in two games? I'd think you're probably unlikely. Now, obviously, Gabriel costs £1 million more, is worth saying as well. But I don't see Saka getting to that total. So Gabriel would be first choice for me. And that obviously means waiting for the team news because there's a fair chance he won't be in. If Gabriel's not in the team, there's a fair shot that I'll go Tierney. And then look at it the other way and go, all right, might not be passing tiers. I want one clean sheet. And if I can get one attacking return, that would be great. And he's playing, everybody knows he's playing really well at the moment. So he's almost an outside shot for man of the match as well. Where someone like Gabriel, unless he perhaps scored in the games, he's got no chance of being a man of the match, I don't think. Whereas Tierney could completely miss out and actually at the moment could pick up a man of the match. And it's similar with Saka, actually, to be fair. If I went for Saka, that's what I'd be hoping for. Honestly, he's a man of the match as the most likely route.
You don't think he'd get any other returns, potentially? No,
I think he can. But in terms of, say, matching Gabriel's passing tier, I would actually think that's the most likely avenue for him to get it, would be to pick up a man of the match. So, and that's part why I don't hate him as an option at the moment. If Aubameyang or Lacazette don't go off, the most likely man of the matches for Arsenal at the moment are Saka, Smith Rowe, or Tierney. Smith Rowe is 6.4. I don't like that. I don't like that move. You're going to have a major. You're going to, if you've got 3 in midfield, if suddenly he's out the team, which doesn't look like happening at the moment. You probably want to hold this till overhaul. You may very well struggle to get away from that. That could be quite difficult. So I think going Smith Rowe is probably not advisable. Saka, depending on your setup, I think is okay.
Yeah, I'm in 2 minds at the moment, either defensively or midfield. So I've got 2 straightforward switches. One would be Grealish to Gabriel or Tierney, and I actually think I'd go with Tierney for the 2 games than Gabriel because I've got the money. The disadvantage of that would be that I will end up with a 5-3-2 again, and I got stuck with that before. So I would need to know where I'm coming off to get back to a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3. I don't want to stay as a 5-3-2 beyond the Newcastle game for Arsenal next week. So Grealish to Tierney gives me bigger upside. It's probably the more sensible move to make. If I don't feel confident in Arsenal defensively, then the sideways move that I can make is basically shit to shit, which is Romeo to Saka. And I don't need to make any moves there. Again, it's not very inspiring, right? It doesn't feel like it's a move that it's basically covering me off than actually thinking, where's my bigger upside? So I think the Grealish to Tierney move is the move I'm going to make. And then obviously the armband will be on Tierney, and I'm happy to have him for those 2 games comfortably. And we never know what the additional postponements for Villa could be. And if I don't have Grealish for the Man City game, I'm not even that bothered. So really, I'll end up with Tierney for quite a while before I'd probably want Jack Grealish back for the Burnley game.
I think ideally, whoever you buy from Arsenal, you probably want them to stay to overhaul now. Whereas originally, one of the things I was thinking last week was like Gabriel, 2 captaincies, bang, Antonio next day. That again, that's a want transfer. I probably don't need it. And therefore, I probably wouldn't go there and make that move. I'm probably only likely to buy Antonio now if I walk into an injury over the next 4 or 5 days before they play West Brom, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
No Friday
Saturday
game now.
Oh. Yeah, of course. The Chelsea-Fulham game has moved. Fulham-Chelsea, I should say. So what are your thoughts on Saturday captaincy at the moment as it stands?
I think best shout's probably still Vardy. I think if you've got Vardy against Southampton, the potential to know that could be, it's easy to say, oh, Southampton won't be daft and play a high line. Listen, we've seen it before. So I think if I had Vardy, I would go Vardy. For myself, I've got Neto, presumably, if I've still got him. Zuma now against Fulham, which is not the worst shout. And Bamford. I think for me, I'll be going Bamford against Brighton. His ownership's enough now as well that it's starting to cancel out the gains I had on it quite early on. He's been brilliant for me since I got him. I got him when they drew 0-0 with Arsenal, which was, I want to say around about match week 9. He's only blanked twice since. He's done well. He's been ticking over at kind of over 5 points a game. So I want to go Bamford because I know, to be honest, against Brighton, he's probably eating shot tears. If he scores as well, you're looking at a 20-pointer or so. So Bamford for me against Brighton is the way I'm likely to go.
Leeds have a good short kind of burst of fixtures. Brighton, Southampton, Newcastle. You can get a 3 for 2 across a lot of teams, or even a 3 for 1. No,
well, the Southampton game might go. That's the only thing with that.
Concern,
and actually, to buy Leeds on Saturday, I'm not quite sure what you'd be selling unless you went from Grealish to Bamford on Saturday, in which case there might not be any gain. If the Southampton game's off, you've got Bamford versus Brighton, then Grealish is back for City. There might not be any gain at all. They're also awkward to sell Leeds assets for a couple of reasons. So even if the Southampton game's off, they'll play on the Tuesday against Newcastle on the 26th after the FA Cup fourth round. That fixture won't move. So they start at the following game week as well, and it's a decent fixture. So that makes them difficult to sell. It's worth saying Man City West Brom should also be a complete lock for that night, so you don't need the captaincy coverage. But I also noticed, looking further ahead, the last weekend before the overhaul is obviously FA Cup 5th round fixtures in the midweek afterwards. Now, there are 5 teams that have gone out the FA Cup, 2 of which are Leeds and Crystal Palace, and they're scheduled to play each other on that weekend. So if Sky are going to announce the February fixtures soon, they can put Leeds and Palace on the Monday night with no consequence to anybody else. So I think there's a fair chance that could be a Monday night Leeds Palace. So if you were thinking, probably just a note for people who are thinking maybe Dallas to Holding, which I could completely accept why people would want to make that move. Just give that a second thought, because you might need to come back to some sort of Leeds captaincy coverage right at the end, quite possibly. But I think Bamford for me Saturday.
Right. I'm going to be sticking with Zuma at the moment, as he's the only player I've got that I think is worthy of the armband.
Who else you got Saturday?
Yeah. Romeu. That's it.
Right.
I could go Dallas
Zuma,
at
then.
Home to Brighton. Yeah, I mean, I do have Dallas at home to Brighton, but I'm not sure if I want to go Stuart Dallas as captain.
I don't hate Zuma as an option for Saturday.
Not a bad
actually.
shout, but
I think Zuma for Saturday's okay, actually. And we was all captaining him on Friday night in the first place, I think, majority of us anyway. I don't think he's a bad option for Saturday. It technically, Chelsea got the best fixture on Saturday.
And on the Sunday, which Manchester City asset are you going to captain? Because I think the majority of people are going to gravitate towards City, although the Spurs fixture away at Sheffield United is a good one. It's funny, we joke about how in the season that Derby picked up 11 points, 4 of them came from Newcastle. Well, Newcastle delivered last night with Sheffield United, 3 points on a platter.
Is anybody surprised that Sheffield United's first win was against Newcastle? I don't think anybody's particularly surprised. Anyway, those are 2 teams.
There are a few that went all in on the free hit in FPL, thinking Newcastle defence backfired a little.
Sheffield United and Newcastle are not Sky conversations, so we can skip this. No. I think Kane again Sunday.
The reason I mention it is because Spurs are playing Sheffield United, and I think Sheffield United will have a rude awakening from that victory. I don't think it's going to be so straightforward on Sunday. So owning Son, again, feels like a potential captaincy option as a differential to the Manchester City boys on the Sunday. I'll probably bottle it, to be honest with you, because Man City are at home and you guys are away. So I am going to probably stick with the Man City asset, but it's not a bad option, right?
Son and Kane get home and away out your mind. It's more about opponent. Now, Sheffield United, we know, don't concede many, right? It's only Manchester United twice have scored more than 2 at Bramall Lane since they were promoted. So you wouldn't expect Spurs to go off big at Sheffield United, but you would probably expect enough to get returns. So I think Kane, if you own, you'll probably go for on Sunday against Sheffield United. For me, again, it's most likely to be De Bruyne, but no decision on that until obviously after tonight's gone. And then even more so knowing Aston Villa's situation, because I guess if there was a game that was going to rotate, maybe it's the Palace game, which is 7:15 on Sunday. So no team news, unlike tonight, for example. But I think I would still chance De Bruyne. And I would fancy that more than Bruno or Salah versus each other.
Arsenal on Monday night, I'm assuming whoever you have tomorrow night.
Same again.
In your case, if it's Lacazette or what have you. Yep. Control-C, Control-V, copy-paste. On the Tuesday night at the moment, again, Zuma is the only coverage that I have. So for me, it would be Zuma. Unless, of course, I bought Antonio, but I don't see that right now. The only reason I'd be buying Antonio is if it fixed a problem for me elsewhere.
Well, the 2% of my brain wants to say Leeds versus Bamford versus Southampton, which is obviously meant to be Wednesday. So, I mean, should that get moved, I would go Bamford over Zuma, but I think that's very unlikely. So, Zuma's just a fallback. I think the guys on Hub were quite right Sunday, generally speaking, in saying that if you've got coverage for the night, whether it's Vardy, Zuma, whatever, it's probably best just to go with that and don't go swinging for other things. So, for me, that's one reason why I can't sell Zuma at the moment, is I still need that next Tuesday. I do not need to have the headache of scrambling around for what to do if I've decided to go Antonio and then Antonio's not in the West Ham team. I do not need that scramble. So Zuma's going to stay for me. For other people who've got Vardy or are looking to go Antonio Saturday, or have decided they're going to go that way Tuesday, which is fine, of course, then Zuma's potentially expendable for an Arsenal asset on Thursday, for example, or City tonight. But it'd be Zuma for me, away to Leicester. I'd see a passing tier in that. And actually, just on Zuma, Fulham, Leicester, Wolves, Burnley, Tottenham, Sheffield United are Chelsea's 6 games between now and overhaul. I would not be surprised if he picked up passing tier in all of them.
Yeah.
So I'm quite happy to hold him through. And I feel Chelsea have come out the worst of their fixtures. In spite of the fact they've still got Leicester next week, I feel like the worst of the run is over for them. And actually, they might pick up some decent results in the next 5 or 6, Chelsea.
And then, let me just pull it up. The fixtures in front of me, they've disappeared. The following night, are you going to go with Bruno away at Fulham, or are you going to try and gravitate towards a City asset at home to Villa?
Probably Bruno by default, just to cover it off,
yeah,
I think.
I'm going to be Bruno. I mean, United have such a good away record this season so far that it doesn't particularly faze me that they're away. So yeah, Bruno, it's a no-brainer for me.
I think it's worth saying, obviously, United Liverpool play each other in the fourth round of the Cup. That game, we haven't got the schedule for the fourth round of the Cup yet, but that game's going to be on a Sunday, almost certainly. And that doesn't affect their Premier League fixtures the midweek afterwards either. That's because obviously Liverpool play Burnley on the Thursday. So if I presume Solskjaer will want to play Bruno against Liverpool in the Cup, whereas it might have previously been earmarked for a rest. So that's the small concern about the Fulham game maybe. But I think a 4-day break should be okay. And I'd probably want to go with Bruno. I mean, with his away record as well, even more so than his home fixtures and United's away record, I think, just Bruno for that one would be the safer play, generally speaking. So let's see how we feel next Wednesday about it.
Indeed. And last but not least, there's the Liverpool-Burnley game. Are you holding Salah throughout? So Salah will be your captaincy.
Yeah, to be honest, and that's why it's for this, for the Burnley game. It's why I don't want to sell Robertson. It's because of that game, but I'm going to have to. But yeah, Salah. I would have no qualm if I...
Well, he's sticking with me throughout.
I would have no qualm if I thought it was right to go Salah to Kane now and keep Robertson as the coverage for that. But you know what? Again, with Liverpool then playing United in the Cup fourth round 3 days later, Milner could play left back. And then I'm fucked. And it's just better to cover the captaincy of the most owned Liverpool asset at the moment, I think. So Salah, I think for me, it's got to stay because of that. And also the Brighton fixture that they have at home in match week 22, which we don't know yet if that will be a Wednesday or a Thursday. But whenever that is, he's going to be mass captains again, Mo Salah.
Cool. Let's get into some Twitter questions here, James, that we've had. One of the things I love to find out is, obviously, I have sometimes a glance through the Twitter questions before we get into the show. Sometimes the time and turnaround between the billion pods that we do doesn't allow it. I always get a sense of satisfaction when we get Twitter questions that we've already answered in the conversation, because it means we know we're covering off the right talking points. And so let's see if we have, shall we?
Go.
Benny Blanco. I don't even know where Benny is on the old leaderboard now, but he was right up there, top 100 for a long period of time.
Yeah, he's in. I didn't look at the top 100 leaderboard last night, but he's right up there. He's doing great, Benny. He's shitting himself that I'm going to catch him, but he's doing very well.
Benny Blanco says, with Grealish being on 4 yellow cards and the strong possibility of the Villa versus Everton game being postponed, is it time to move him on? We have discussed this, particularly if you have coverage with Martinez or any potential captaincy days, which is exactly the boat that I'm in. Grealish for me is expendable right now.
I agree. I think he's expendable. I also think it's okay to hold because it could fall into your lap very, very nicely. But I think for me, I'm going to move. And there's a risk in that because of his ownership and stuff. But I think that the timing is right, I think.
Yeah. Simple goal. It's our friend Dave, right? Who are your favourite City assets? Diaz and KDB obvious picks. I mean, the ownership tells us alone that they are very popular, not just with the community, but everybody that's playing. But Cancelo, Stones, Gundogan, Sterling are all different viable differential picks moving forward with a great run of games. Should I just buy them all?
Let me ask you a question out of interest. I'll give you a hypothetical. Who do you think scores more? John Stones at home to Brighton, Crystal Palace and Aston Villa, or Gabriel captained twice against Palace and Newcastle?
That's a very good question.
I think the answer.
I don't think there's much in it.
I'm
going to say
that's
Gabriel.
Interesting, though, isn't it? I think yes, because look, it's Gabriel 4 games versus Stones 3.
With his passing tiers, comfortable, higher chance. Yeah, but I feel like I'm more confident in Stones. No, definitely not. Definitely not straightforward.
So in terms of City assets, if you haven't got
Cancelo, still a great shout.
Stones would be the priority for me. If you're sitting there, a lot of people be sitting there listening right now with Diaz and KDB. Stones over Cancelo for me all day at the moment. I'm almost definitely going to buy Cancelo, but I'm not big on it. I'm buying Cancelo quite a lot in my mind because I think a lot of other people are going to buy John Stones tonight.
Right. And he's cheaper.
I want to stay ahead of it.
Makes a difference to you.
What's that? With 0.2 between them,
0.2 Cancelo. Not much at all. Sterling's the other one that's getting very few mentions that could go off potentially. But who's the sacrifice that you make to get Sterling in is the question.
Well, it would be either KDB or Kane, which you're obviously not doing tonight, or Salah or Bruno.
No.
That's going to be the case for the majority of people. So you're looking at a situation now where defensively, I think there's about 10% of the game, or 10% of the top 1,000 still got Robertson like me, and I think a lot of them might be coming off tonight. For many people now, the most expensive defender is Diaz. And therefore, to start moving in people like Sterling, you have to fuck around essentially with the big four of Kane, Salah, Bruno, KDB. And it's difficult to have all 4 of them if you have a sort of defence like what I've got. If you've got people like Dallas, Rob Holding, etc., Bednarek, then these sort of things become a little bit easier to manoeuvre. But obviously for me, it's a case of not having Harry Kane at the moment and going with the guys I really trust to get the powerful passing tiers and clean sheets defensively.
Yeah. A few questions here that we can get through rapid fire, James, because we have answered them. Warren Moon, most likely Arsenal defender to play both single game days. I think we've said Tierney is
most likely. It's Tierney,
yeah, without a doubt. With Gabriel just coming back from COVID and all that kind of nonsense. Now, Holding is probably fairly nailed potentially as well, but I think Tierney is the most nailed. James Whitmore says he has 19 transfers left, but he has Konsa and Grealish in his team. Keep or move on, considering he has every captaincy day covered. So he doesn't need to make a move for captaincy coverage. 19 transfers pre-overhaul.
The problem with that is I don't know where you go from Konsa. I don't know where you go.
Alice.
Is it worth
West Ham.
Is it worth it? That's suddenly what we if Leeds Southampton does get postponed, it's like it's not really worth it. So I think what you're looking at there is you're probably keeping Konsa as a bit of coverage and suffering it, and you're probably selling Grealish. That's probably where you're at. Unfortunately, it's a bit shit that, but it's probably I don't know where you go from Konsa at the moment.
Ron,
if you've got Holding. He's got the Arsenal coverage. He's not going to go for Holding. Otherwise, I'd say, Konsa to Holding. But he's got it.
Ron at Mince at Sky FF says, all very much up in the air, but there's rumours of the Villa Newcastle being in FA Cup 4th round weekend, Leeds Southampton being postponed. Do you think those scenarios are likely? You mentioned them. He says, what is the likelihood? High, low, medium? I'd say probably low now, really, isn't it?
I think we're leaning towards Leeds Southampton likely being postponed. I don't think Villa will play Newcastle. As I said, to me, it feels daft to arrange a game at the moment that's unnecessary. That game could be in game week 35. It doesn't matter. It can be whenever. As I said, I've a small hunch Villa Tottenham Monday 25th is a possibility if they use their brain. But again, I don't see them using their brain, mate. So I don't think Villa will play
very
next
simple,
weekend.
A simple A or B for Lee Williams, who says Lacazette or Aubameyang. Leaning towards Lacazette. I'd probably go Lacazette, mate, to be honest. Yeah, I think Lacazette is quite clearly a better option at the moment. So I'd go Lacazette.
Neither are great. Again, to force in Aubameyang, it's a little bit more like Sterling. You've got to blow out something else big. Whereas Lacazette, you've got more chance of manoeuvring something that allows you to still keep the big guys.
Or something along those lines.
I think with Lacazette, if you go Lacazette or Aubameyang, you will want to come off immediately. Almost definitely. And I don't like that idea. I want to get an Arsenal player that if I have the luxury to move, great. If I can't, fine. And I want that mentality with him. So for me, that rules out Lacazette and Aubameyang at the moment. It's not justifiable, really. I know Lacazette's on a good little run, but it includes goals against Brighton, West Brom. For the next two, could be absolute dynamite and gold for you. But I don't think you're going to want it beyond.
No. We now have a couple of questions about Kurt Zuma. So Jake and also Mikey ask, Mikey's just saying, is it safe to drop Zuma now? Well, we talked about that. Actually, you may want to hold him all the way through to overhaul. Jake says, would you transfer out Zuma for Cancelo without a captain for next Tuesday's game? So basically, Zuma to Cancelo and then punt next Tuesday with no captain. Doesn't seem sensible to me. I think we've talked about Zuma and keep him.
I'd hold it.
Yeah, for me, definitely.
Almost definitely you won't need captaincy coverage. The only note I'd say on that is, I mean, that final weekend before overhaul, Chelsea play Sheffield United away, and City and Liverpool do play each other. Now, that might be one where you look at Zuma and think, oh, I fancy that for a 10-pointer. They don't defend set pieces the way they used to. Could he get me a goal as well? There's a possibility that you might want the luxury to captain Zuma, depending on how the Saturday and Sunday fixtures fall. It's extremely unlikely to be on a Monday night or a Friday night. Because City Liverpool play each other, he wouldn't be necessarily the worst choice. And that's one of the things I've got in the back of my mind, because Tottenham play West Brom that weekend. And that's one where I'm probably going to be a bit shaky if I haven't got a Spurs coverage. That with City Liverpool playing each other, that one is, and it's one of the reasons I got in my mind the idea of potentially to buy Kane when Tottenham play Brighton on the 31st. Possibly what I'm thinking at the moment. But again, I feel like it'd be a luxury move. Let's see how many transfers I got when I get there. I'm running out of them.
Yeah. Joe Amrabatman, with many looking to hold transfers until overhaul, is now a good time to pile into City and smash into their fixture run.
Yes, if you can. If you can, of course. There's nervousness about the whole situation with football at the moment. But I think I think we're very safe, generally speaking, to get through this weekend and next midweek's fixtures. I think we should be pretty safe now, in which case there were immediate gains with City, even if the worst did happen and football got postponed. It would help if they stopped cuddling each other when they celebrate. Although a point on that, they all get tested before the game and they're all negative, so I don't quite know why it matters that much, actually, if they're all negative, if they want to cuddle each other when they've scored. There's bigger things to worry about at the moment, in my opinion. But yes, and that's why I like even things like Rodri. I haven't decided. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to buy Cancelo tonight and for City. That's still going to be more than the majority of people. But I want to steam into it enough that I am seriously considering Rodri as well and going with 5. Because I think I've got the captaincy coverage elsewhere, particularly holding someone like Zuma as fullback option, that I'm probably going to be okay with coverage of still having Salah, Fernandes, De Bruyne, and then obviously with the Arsenal player as well. And I just need to suck up the fact that Tottenham is the one that Tottenham are the only team right now who can hurt me, I feel, badly, which is ironic. I kind of hope they do. Would I'd prefer like a Bergwijn hat-trick would be good.
Well, I don't think it's going to happen, mate.
No, it's not.
Ian Parron, couple last questions we've got here. So with all the kind of current variables and issues, Ian saying there's no point with a medium to long-term strategy question. Let's keep it simple. Arsenal, cheap enabler, or would you keep to overhaul or heavy hitter you can move off next week? I think it's a similar situation to do you go Lacazette or one of the big defenders, or just whack in a Saka and just sit on it for as long as you can?
Depends where Gabriel Tierney mid-price kind of is where you're at with them. I think that's the better call. Generally, is probably one of them. I don't mind holding. I prefer that over the Saka. But I think, as discussed previously, you are better having a player, in my opinion, who, if you are forced to keep, that you keep. And Arsenal's fixtures aren't brilliant after Newcastle. Southampton, Man United, Wolves, Villa is not the best run in terms of what your expectations are defensively. But am I happy to leave it, knowing that Southampton haven't been firing mad offensively lately, neither of Wolves?
Yep.
So, yes, it's okay. It's okay. I would rather go with one of them than one of the premiums that I'd be desperate to get rid of.
Yeah. And let's leave the last thought to David Rowe. We've talked about this a little bit. Maybe you can summarise it succinctly as you do so well, Joes. Despite the attractive fixtures, is it time to just hold our teams and wait until overhaul, at which point we might be through the worst of the COVID chaos? I'd say might. Any game can be cancelled at any time or rearranged. It's a real tricky one because in chaos is when you can make gains, right?
Let's be real. We could still be in chaos come April. It's worth saying. But I think we are getting to the kind of home straight where we can see, okay, there's for many teams now, there's only like 5 games left before overhaul, and every move now has more short-term thinking about it. So there should be a caution in what you're doing. But I think it also means we're now, this period up until next Thursday, feels like over this period is the last shot to, right, if I'm going to go, I'm going to go. And I think once we get beyond sort of Liverpool, Burnley next Thursday, depending on the Villa situation, if they have a game rearranged or not, then I think we really are entering in calm. So in my thinking at the moment is, I'm talking about going Cancelo tonight, possibly Rodri. And then my preference tomorrow as it stands is Gabriel. And my thinking is at the moment that if I don't walk into problems, which I probably will, that could be it for me. And I just go, okay, that's it. And we just run through. And I think that an ending idea needs to be part of your thinking at the moment. I mentioned possibly buying Kane when Tottenham play Brighton on the 31st, for example. But I'll make that decision when I get there. It might be I decide it's not worth it because then I've still got Salah playing West Ham that day, for example, and know that will cover me. It's more looking at it and going, that West Brom game, depending on how it lands, is possibly going to give me a massive headache on the final weekend. But it might just be one where I have to go, I'll suck this up and go without. So it could be that it's possible. Yeah. It's possible that whoever I buy from Arsenal tomorrow night might be my last transfer. I highly doubt it somehow, but it's possible, and that's part of my thinking at the moment.
There we go. There's our weekly deep dive into Sky Fantasy Football. Thank you for your questions that you sent through in on Twitter that we always appreciate. James, anything else to add?
No.
Good luck, everybody, tonight.
Be brave, but be cautious. Does that help?
Yeah. There we go. Wherever you are, thank you for listening to the podcast. Hit the subscribe button or the notification bell, whether you're on YouTube or iTunes or SoundCloud or Stitcher or Spotify. And if you want more content, then you can go over to patreon.com/planetfpl, where we release an additional podcast every single day. Quite often we do some additional Sky content, and we do have a very active Sky channel in our Slack where you can interact with some Sky managers as well if you are interested. So yeah, that's all available on Patreon for anybody that's interested.
I'd say it's highly likely that our additional Sky podcast will probably be next Thursday. So it's highly likely.
Nice, interesting, good stuff. Stay safe wherever you are. Please keep looking after each other. Ciao for now.
Thanks everyone. Good luck. Cue music, please, man child.